Varam sākt?
Yeah.
Tad
Okay.
sākam.
Hello, I am Māris Ločmelis and I have many years of experience in development. Yes, 6 of them are Java, 14 of them are OOP. So I am good at object-oriented language, let's say structure formation, and I wanted to share some experience in this spectrum. Yes. So just to respect Java, I will explain what's primary, basic, let's say, features of Java. It's object-oriented programs. That it means that everything inside Java is object. You cannot create not object at all. Yes. Second feature that have Java is vendors, because first object is created by vendor by specifying Java version. Yes, and you start with vendors. And also it has virtual machine. This is why it's very popular for non-computer environments like robots, because you can put the virtual machine, calibrate it with current processor, and it will work on anything that is calculating something. Yes, and it has Java development kit that is allowing you to switch versions, that is allowing you to work with it. It will have some documentation where you can see what method does, what method doesn't, and it allows you to decompile Java classes to see the method names at least. Yes, so it helps you with some autocomplete. Okay, I described probably previously. I don't want to stop because I think that everyone knows something. Yes, and today I will talk about spaghetti. Spaghetti is kind of good thing for people who create them and bad thing for people who read it, because it's kind of obvious that it is not best place where to read, because you have tons of information, and this tons of information is handling in small scope of environment. And in this case it's very not abstract and it's very hard to understand. I will show some examples. They will be kind of not final. Yes, there are much more worse cases, and I just wanted to give something to match the screen, because if I would show real spaghetti examples, it wouldn't fit 10 screens, 20 screens, and 15 screens, and it will be one method, and it will be very good example, but very bad for presentation, so I didn't do that. Yes, and it is hard to read, it is hard to maintain, and it is hard to restructurize. Because when you restructurize or maintain spaghetti code, usually it breaks something, because you don't fully understand what it is doing, you don't have any abstraction, and you don't understand what you are touching, because you are touching one, let's say, line, but it is touching whole project in 5 places, because this line is executed 5 times. Yes, and in 5 times it has different input and it has different output. So yes, this is some example of nesting. Yes, this is one of the problems of spaghetti, and also if-else scenarios can be impossible to read, even if you will sit down for 10 hours. Yes, and I have seen those projects, and I have seen such places where you have if-else scenario that is totally unreadable, and I spent too much time for reading it, and only by starting refactoring it, I started to understand what's happening inside. Yes, so it's kind of no, this holds 4 screens. This is one method. Yes, so there we have if statement case. This is some calculation step. This is something related to calculation step, and also sending some email. And this is error reporting. Yes, so currently in one file it looks not so, let's say, hard to read, because it doesn't have too much lines. It's about 20 lines of total. So it's, for any experienced developer, it's kind of easy to read. And here we see the more abstract version, where we factored the same things, but we moved the logic inside some objects. And all the example and this refactored advice generated by ChatGPT, so I don't know. No, I don't spend some time to create some style classes to make them white. Yes, so it's just an example how it could look like and how it can look like to understand what is going on. Yes, because when you see, for example, here you see that it's validating, yes, and it has validation here. Here you see that it's calculating totals. Here you see that it is sending emails, yes, and here is the final output that we are searching for. Yes, so in this case, it's human readable, and you can see each process by going into the method. Currently it's impossible, but in real life it's usually possible because code is working. Yes. Also next is spaghetti in DTOs. Yes, when one DTO have 100 or 200 possible fields that can be defined. Yes, and even autocomplete can't help you to pick the field you want to set. And it is also kind of problem. Here I have only 15 fields. Yes, it's not a huge object, but it could be 10 times bigger. And then it will be the problem. The problem of appearing such objects is that you have one object and you are putting one field, second field, third field, and so on. And never you stop to refactor the fields to group by logical groups. Yes. For example, here you can see I just put this to the logical fields, and user.all looks much smaller, but you can see that there is some personal data, there is some contact information, there is some out data, and user changes data. And this is more readable because if you are working with authorization, you want to see fields related to contact data, yes, and this will be, yes.
That's probably also, if you have such a large details, probably then the problem is with your domain object, how it looks and what is there. Then this actually makes more sense when it's split.
No, yes, but this is the main problem here is not to show how this object can be done, because this is also a bad approach. Yes, those details shouldn't be in one place, and even by then you can put the backlink here, yes, and make it fully for spaghetti. Also because it will return back to previous object, and when you will move to some, let's say, output formatter like JSON, it can also break because you will need to describe that this field have infinite redirect loop, so you need to make it better. But this was just for example, yes, that you can just to people to not make single objects with all the data that they require. Because I have seen many projects where one person is working and he is just putting those fields. I need new field, I open my only DTO project, I put there no field, and that's all. Yes, and you come there, you start refactor at least to this state, and they say, no, guy. We have good object, please make one line change, yes, and it's all. And you are saying, but no, if I try to use my autocomplete, I don't understand what's in this object. Yes, but you don't need, you need to add one field, and that's all. Yes, and this is a huge problem, because if you are working with some humans that are working 10 years with you, it's okay. Yes, you also know the field properties, and you all know the first letter you should write to understand what you need. But if newcomers comes, it's impossible, because he will start to think what's this field for, what is responsible for, and this may be reduced by abstraction. Yes. For example, here you see that, for example, email is contact information. Yes, and newcomer will understand that email is mentioned for contacts. Yes, token is mentioned for authorization. Yes, authentication not important, but this will give some boost for newcomers, because newcomers will more understand this than this. Yes.
Any advice if the source system gives back you like JSON with plain structure and it has like 50 fields or 15 fields, whatever, and you use something like JSON transformer or XML transformer?
I
change the source system, right?
No, I usually, let's say, I usually doesn't rely on the output of JSON. Yes, I didn't read it at all. So from my perspective of view, I am always trying to understand the structure, understand how the structure should work. After that, I will try to understand how frontend will use this structure to utilize UI. Yes, and if I will understand, for example, I am throwing 200 fields in response. Yes, then I will understand that 200 fields is not needed for front-end at all.
Yeah,
yes.
But somebody else gives you that. So somebody else throws
you make your DTO that is consuming only those variables that you need. So you are creating something to consume the data you need, to eliminate the data that you have but you don't need it. Yes, you can make the DTO for response. Yes, your database is having 20 fields and it is returning the, for example, this. You can use mapstract, yes, to map it to this structure. You can use, for example, mapstract to map it, no, even you may use Jackson to describe the response and use only 5 fields for each token. Yes, you can make, for example, 20, I don't know how it's named, mix-ups, yes, or whatever, but you can make 20 of them and return back one by one. For example, for authorization, you return only 5 fields. For contact details, you return only 3 fields. Yes, maybe everywhere you return ID. But it's kind of, if we talk about responses, then not every field that is given by response you should save to the memory and show to the client. Yes, because you can use, and it can be used in Java, yes, specified by some DTO that is transforming from entity to response DTO. It can be used in frontend if you're a frontend developer. Yes, some backend guy is giving you something that you don't understand, and to understand you are trying to make some middleware. I don't know how it's named there. Usually I have heard some name about middleware, and where you are putting the transformation of data that is passed by server to the data that you are utilizing in your function. Yes, it's kind of obvious that you can do it, and if you have struggling with data that server is returning, you can create tasks that you are passing me 10 gigabytes of data, I need only 1 megabyte, so please reduce the output and I will be happy, and it will optimize the project and use only those megabytes that you need. And when they will decrease the project, they will see that, if they are smart enough to understand your code, they will see that you don't rely on the data they are deleting, because you don't put it in any object, you don't put it in any place, and they are kind of safe to delete, because you are only consumer and you are using only 5 fields of 5,000. So it's kind of like that. So yes, this is kind of also interesting thing when you are using tree clause for creating your project. Oh, I don't have a pointer.
Spin the wheel.
Ah, spin. Okay, here we have some code that is throwing exception, returning something, yes, and it is kind of hard to read because you have multiple, let's say, return points that can stop application. And for example, in this case, if we see only this method, then it can be only here. So if this function is executed, also will be executed here. This is maybe not the best, let's say, worst for readability, but it is very, let's say, tricky, because if I return this, if I remove this return, then system starts to execute this part and this part. And this is appearing without your knowledge. Yes, you just think that you will, for example, this is logging something to the database, yes. Auditing, for example, yes. And here we doesn't save, and here we just return from cache, yes, and here we save, but we don't need to audit, yes. And someone returns from cache, and we are start auditing cache data, yes. And cache data is starting to create problems in audit stable, and just only because someone accidentally or on notice removed this return. Yes, it can happen. And this is why spaghetti is too risky, and why you can change one line and it can break your project. This is the reason primary of such nested trees. Yes, we can rework for, let's say, guard clause. Yes, this will be more readable for person, because you understand. No, it is kind of multiple returns in same method. Yes, it's not the best option how you can refactor it, but this is one of the options that you can start using guard clause. And if someone removes this return, you say, no, this application can't work like this, because it will start working with this, and it will start working with this. This is guard clause method, don't touch it. Yes, one if statement, one execution. One if statement, one execution. You can move there some methods or whatever, yes, and return the output of these methods. It's also spaghetti, but it will be easier, and at least you can guard this. Yes, because if someone removes something, then you will see it, notice it, and say that return it back. Yes, this method is not creating spaghetti, so single if, single execution. That's all. Also, there is important thing like imports. Yes, in Java, there are complexity calculations. Yes, and some complexity calculation tools uses imports. If your class have too many imports, then class probably is too complex. You can see there will be a link for the materials. You can see the old method that is handling this functionality. Yes, and let's say when you see so much imports, usually this class needs to be refactored to different classes by separating it by types. Yes, for example, you need to move concurrency to separate service. You need to put responses for separated services and things so on. Yes, also you need to remove empty imports that is just imported for sync. Yes, and here is kind of better import structure. Yes, because we have grouped every import from here to classes inside those. Yes, and each class has about 5 or 10 imports, and they are injected inside, and we have only 5 imports in primary class. And then each class we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 classes, because this is 6, and complexity of each class is much less than in one class with a single method. And in this case, people will better understand, because he will use abstraction thinking to understand that hash service is working with hash something. Yes, I don't need to work with hash. For example, I need to create file, so I need only file service. And hash service won't show the dependencies that he is pasting, just in case to suit needs of other functionality that you are not interested in. Yes, for example, same with task executor, repository, API client. Yes, you are grouping the logic by it. So you are grouping logic by its services. So it's kind of very important to understand, because when newcomer comes, he reads the code. He maybe sometimes reads the documentation, but usually almost always they read the code. If they are juniors, they don't read the code. But if they are not juniors, they read the code, and they don't want to read. Open the file, see this import list. On first 2 pages, he will just close this file and say, okay, let's see where the documentation relies. If he will see the 5 objects, he will start to abstractize, understand it, and minimize it. Usually, recommendation is up to 20 imports per class. Yes, so if you have more than 20 imports, we don't count strings, integers, yes, or things like that. They are also probably at import lists or whatever. It's kind of common sense, but if we count more than 20 dependencies on other objects, then probably this file is not readable at all, and humans will just realize that it works. Yes, so it's worst case. Okay, so we also can specify dependencies inside constructor like this, yes, to not create some dependency here. Because if we create some dependency at runtime, we have problems with tests because we cannot mock existing objects. We need somehow to make a constructor mock. After this, we need to make this constructor mock create some state of the object that it is creating, and it is very complex schema that is usually not working, and if someone adds some constructor things, then probably it's even worse. It also minimizes random object creation that is optimizing your project, because you don't create objects from, I don't know for what cases, but you don't create. Yes, and each creation of object spends some time. It at least overheats garbage collector that is also constantly adding object and removing from the memory. And you won't need them after the execution, so it will solve this problem. Also, it will show, at least in my projects I have good, that I count good, I can see what class is doing by just watching the constructor. Yes, I see 10 services, I understand what the services are doing, and I can guess what this class is for. Yes, for example, it have user repository, it have user API, it have user, let's say, Google authorization service, yes, and you understand that this object probably is authorizing user. Yes, and you are saying this just by watching the constructor and see that the dependencies that is injected inside. Okay, so let's move forward. Vendors management systems, we have Gradle, we have Maven. Yes, difference between them is, I'm not the best person to describe the difference, but Gradle is more functional styled, so you are just describing the functions that is defining parameters, making some global, let's say, configuration, defining some global versions or whatever. And then by functions it's calling and creating the dependencies and dependency trees beyond them. If we talk about Maven, yes, the Maven is more like we describe everything in single object, and they are not relating each to other because they are not functional. Yes, they're just creating like massive of dependencies. Then this massive of dependencies passing somewhere, it's downloading what needed, creating the structure, and yes. Most developers like Gradle. I don't know why, because maybe it's newer, yes, and it's more stable for perspective of view of the project that I was working for. Yes, I don't know the reason, but for Maven I have seen much more bugs like than with Gradle. Yes, it's probably that. Okay. Also, Intel IG have. Probably any redactor that is using Java, have fields that, not fields, tools that is working with Maven or Gradle as boot tool. Yes, I have example of pictures, next slide. Here we can find the Maven. Yes, and here we can see all the commands that is supported by Maven. They are not all, they are just most of them. Yes, and some of the commands you can ask for ChatGPT, for example. You now want to know the whole tree of dependencies. I didn't find it here, even if I would write the first letters. But I found it by ChatGPT. He just pasted me, and there will be comment next to it. But yes, it's kind of very useful. It's very cool because you can see the dependencies you have on current project. Yes, you can see probably the complexity of project. You can understand some build problems. For example, if you have installed version of some package, for example, here we have 3.2. Yes, and then you are switching to another project that have here, for example, Apache Maven plugin 3.1, then you will see that, for example, problem is that this package is downgraded. Yes, no, it's not full fact, but I have seen the situations where you switch the project and it starts to utilize not required dependencies, but dependencies from previous project because it stores it in .m2 file, .rep file, and somehow it's get messy there, and it picks dependency from another project, and the only thing you can fix is just removing the dependency files manually from .repo folder. And it's kind of, with Maven, it's kind of thing that I have done about 10 times per year, at least. And when you are working on multiple projects that have same dependencies with different versions. Okay, if we talk about dependencies, yes, so we have dependency hell. What is dependency hell? When your project is have too much dependencies. How it can be detected? For example, if you have defined 100 dependencies, and probably you have dependency hell, what it means that your related dependencies have conflicts. It's definitely there, you don't see them, but maybe you don't even touch them. Yes, but when you will try to implement new functionality, dependency conflict can jump in, and you will understand why it's bad. Because, yes.
Do you, when you're talking about 100 dependencies, these are direct dependencies or transient as well?
Transient, no, I'm talking about dependency health. This is when direct dependencies is above 100. Yes, so this is, now I threw out it from my head, I never seen 100 dependent, no, I once have seen 100 dependencies, but it's kind of...
What I wanted to say is that if we see the dependency tree, you will see all dependencies that you have transient as well, and they could go over 100 easy.
This, if we talk about the Maven dependency trees, then it will output 100 dependencies on all three, and all three below these dependencies. So if we have 100 dependency, usually each dependency will have 5 another dependencies, then some of them will, for example, half of them will have also 2 dependencies, yes, and they will cross-intersect, and they will have different versions, yes, and you will don't understand which version is installed, so there is some, let's say, attribute you can specify, and he will show not all the dependencies that, no, dependency tree, but it will show the dependencies you have currently installed. Yes, for example, if you have 5 dependencies that is utilizing JUnit command, yes, so he will specify one version 9, other will say that he likes 10, third will say that he likes 11, and there is some command where you will see that actually dependency resolver is giving you version 9. Yes, so there is different command, but dependency tree will just give you tons of output that you cannot understand, and it will be hard to read, because you will see, let's say, and for 100 dependencies you will need to create a parser or use some ChatGPT for understanding what's inside there, yes, and specify your dependencies that have problems and ask the solution. Yes, so let's move forward. So avoid dependency hell. It's kind of, you don't add new dependencies in vendors. You try to evade it at maximal cost. Yes, for example, if you want one function from dependency, yes, sometimes it's easier even to decompile this file and put this copy-paste from this file here. Yes, to not install the dependency, because dependency comes with child dependencies, dependencies may come with conflict may come with bug. Yes, and usually this bug will be on production, and this bug will be on some not predictable place, and you will understand why it's bad. Yes.
There is more. There is more. Because every dependency that you put in your project also presents a security risk. And there are tools that analyzes that, and these securities update all the time. There's issues coming up, and
it's kind
you
of,
need to support that.
If you have proper environment, like with CTCO, yes, they have some custom package manager, yes, I don't remember that was word how it's named, Artifactory. So in this Artifactory you are adding only those extensions that you have read by some random guy from the company, yes. And there is 10 random guys who is reading each dependency, reading the forums, trying to understand the bugs, and if they see that there is some risk, they just don't add this dependency to Artifactory, and that's all. Yes, in this case, you have established some trust by some random guys who got paid for security of packages. Yes, and in this case, security risk is not eliminating, but it's kind of minimizing because some owner of, let's say, Maven, yes, wouldn't be able to just swap the file, and you will have different files that is injected with some, let's say, token reader, because they don't have access to your artifact.
I agree, but here's the more about that those dependencies could have those security issues could be discovered later, as for with a log4j, if you remember, there was this issue, and it was everywhere. But every dependency that you introduce, you still need to keep track about these issues there. So
Yes.
it's just a more work for you to do later. Down the line.
Usually no one does it, yes. No person who really opens the Maven file each month and says, okay, let's check, double check the dependencies we have.
There are tools that does this during the CI pipeline. So they have these lists of those issues, and they tag, and your pipeline will fail. And then you have to.
Yeah, I understand that if it's updated, yes, but for example, if there something is injected in the file, yes, you can have checksums, for example, yes, for each dependency and check
Yeah, of course,
checksums,
this is different story.
But if we talk about tools that is automatically checking security issues, tools are okay. But sometimes you don't know that those tools exist. Sometimes you don't implement this tool in this case, but you implement it in every other case, and this case is like a blind spot. So you don't need to rely on tools that is not 100% sure. If you don't add the dependencies, then you are 100% sure that no one will inject something because you don't have these dependencies. So security is 100% because you don't have random things that can be found. Also, confirm sub-vendors. Yes, so they talked. If there are too much sub-vendors, then probably you need to specify versions for sub-vendors also. Yes, it's kind of common thing to check conflicts before you start seeing them in production. Also specify and validate version compatibility. Yes, for example, if you are using Lambda, yes, and it is conflicting, for example, with Jakarta, I don't know, yes, then you need to check if, for example, if you have, and I don't remember, Jakarta is new one or old one, but you can need to check, for example, if there are some conflicts with Jakarta and Lambda. Yes, maybe it is. No, it's definitely not, but just for as example. Yes. So, and choose clear path. Choosing clear path, it's like you are needed to create something to add dependency. Yes, it shouldn't be like a guy from my team added new dependency and I don't understand why. Yes, so it should be something like you have stand-ups. In stand-up, one guy says that I want to add some dependency, it's good, I think, yes. And then you start discussion, you are starting to ask questions why we need it. I see the other dependencies that we can add, it is simpler, yes, I understand it better. And it's important because when you talk to other team members, almost in any case this dependency won't appear in your project, because it will be easier to make something by your hand, and it will be maybe not the best option, but it will be like less security risk, less risk for crashing production because you didn't confirm sub-vendors, yes, and or something like that. Or maybe it could be something like you added dependencies that have very huge bug, and the owner of this dependency is closed his GitHub, and there are no one who can commit any bug fix for this vendor. And it may appear for some extending of existing objects, fixing bugs manually inside your project, and working with dependency in your project because it's not supported by external vendors, but it is very tightly pinned in your project and you don't understand what to do with it. So yes. Also, we have some recommendations. Yes, it's Lambda, so for JUnit, Makito, Spring, and Jackson. Those extensions are kind of base. Lombok is for DTOs, Yes, for example, if you have latest Java, you have records, and Lombok is not so good there. Maybe it's not fully shiny.
It gives builder. That's
It gives
good.
builder. It gives if you don't have object that is like DTO, but you have some service, yes, and you need to pass some service, for example, a list of parameters that is supported by this service, yes, and you can specify getter on the single thing, and it will not be record because you can't create record. Also, JUnit, it's for testing. Mockito is for mocking objects, working in object environment. It's very important thing, yes, so it's kind of base package, and very, very often those libraries are conflicting with each other. So check versions of both, they should be or matched or described in the Mockito, for example, with which JUnit versions it's compatible. Because I have seen about 3 times where Mockito is requiring different JUnit commons, and about 10% of functionality that is supported by JUnit is just crashing with fatal errors on boot, and it is kind of messy to understand, detect, and update the correct library. There's also JSON for data transformation from objects to any structured things. It have XML, JSON, maybe it YAML also has, I don't know. Yes, but it's all those extensions I had almost in any project, and I have seen almost in any project that I was worked. So those are very useful. Yes, and about questions, if there is any questions, or yes. So,
Thank you.
have a nice sleep. Bye.
No questions? No.
There was questions during runtime.
Chocolate, 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 ideas.